everyone. It's great to be here. I'm from the US, so I'm going to be doing this talk in English, if you all don't mind. Okay, thank you. Where's my mouse? All right. So yeah, I'm Andrea Wu. I'm a developer relations engineer on the Firebase team. I'm, as I said, originally from the US, and I'm just here visiting some family, and I'm not Thai myself, but yeah, one of my dad's sisters married a Thai, that's why we have family here. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about BigQuery and Firebase, and more specifically about integrating these two products together as well as streaming. So maybe you've heard of BigQuery before, maybe you haven't. I'll do a brief introduction on what it actually is. So BigQuery is Google Cloud's enterprise data warehouse, and it's designed to help ingest, store, analyze, and visualize a lot of data. It's often used to quickly get insights into data, and in Firebase, as you can imagine, if you use Firebase products, there's a lot of data that you store or collect, etc. And you might have some questions about your app or your app users' experiences that can be answered by looking more closely at this data. So maybe you're using Google Analytics and you want to see the retention rate by country, or maybe you want to check Crashlytics to look at the number of crashes per day for the past month to make sure that a bug bash that you did actually make your product better. So all of these questions can be answered by integrating Firebase with BigQuery, where you can perform custom analysis on your data set per product. But you might be also wondering, these questions seem like they can be answered just by looking at product dashboards on Firebase console. So why would you actually want to integrate BigQuery with Firebase? Well, when you do integrate both together, you can dig into the data to see if there are any patterns and trends, or you can perhaps have questions that are not already answered in Firebase console. So you can use BigQuery queries to answer those questions to get more actionable insights and get into much deeper exploration of your data in ways that are far more customized than what's available in the console. For example, maybe you don't just want to see user retention by country, but also want to compare different groups of users on a regular basis based on factors like when they first started using the app or their total engagement time. Another benefit of exporting Firebase data to BigQuery is that you can decide how long you want to keep your raw data history around, since Firebase console doesn't keep it around forever. There's literally endless possibilities, and this is where using BigQuery with Firebase can become a big help. Now, you might be wondering whether BigQuery is an entirely no-cost service, and the answer to that question is that some features are free of charge and some features are not. While loading and exporting data have no cost, BigQuery does charge for storing data, streaming inserts, and querying data. What if you wanted to try out BigQuery to make sure that it actually fits the needs that you have before you put in your credit card information? Well, you can use BigQuery Sandbox, which is a way to try out BigQuery without putting in your credit card information. And it lets you explore BigQuery capabilities at no cost to confirm that it actually does fit your needs. There are some limits though, including a default table expiration time of 60 days, meaning that the tables will get deleted after 60 days. You also will not have access to some features such as streaming to BigQuery, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, data transfer service, and data manipulation language statements. So if you do want those features, you can upgrade at any point from Sandbox to use BigQuery without those limits. And when you upgrade, you'll still have access to the no-cost tiers included in the Sandbox. But operating beyond those limits can incur charges, and those charges depend on how much data you store in BigQuery as well as the queries that you make. Although, again, loading and exporting data is still free. As a reminder, with BigQuery Sandbox, there is a 60-day expiry set on tables used for exporting And while upgrading to BigQuery means you no longer have that 60-day limit, you do need to go manually set the expiration, as upgrading doesn't automatically reset that 60-day limit. So currently, 5 Firebase products integrate with BigQuery: Analytics, Cloud Messaging, Crashlytics, Performance Monitoring, and A/B Testing. And there's also a Firebase extension for Firestore for you to integrate with BigQuery as well. So after integrating with BigQuery, you can export data from each of these products and use SQL to query the data to gain insights for whatever questions you might have. I'll briefly go over what each of these products are and some examples of information you can get when you integrate this specific product with BigQuery. So first, I'm going to talk about Firestore. When you're building an app, you'll probably need to store persistent data in a database, and Firestore is one of Firebase's databases where you can do so. It's a NoSQL document-based database, and is strongly consistent, scalable, and multi-regional. It also has effortless syncing and built-in offline support. So you can also do some filtering and sorting through Firebase Console to see information stored in your database. But when you integrate it with BigQuery, you'll be able to get more insights. So for example, you can count the number of occurrences for each value of a given key. Say your database stores different furniture items in your inventory, and each furniture item belongs to one category. In Firestore, you'll probably have category as a key and maybe kitchen, bedroom, living room, and so on as values. How many items for each category do you have in your database? You'll be able to use BigQuery to get the answer to that question. What if you wanted to know the combined cost or the average cost of all the living room items, bedroom items, kitchen items, and so on, all at once? You can use BigQuery to answer that as well. Basically, if there are any questions you have about the data stored inside of your database that's answered generally with SQL, you should be able to use BigQuery to find the answer to your question. All right, so now let's say you've finally launched an app that you've been working so hard on, and is gaining popularity around the world. But it seems that some people are not having the experience that you experienced. They're saying it's slow or unresponsive, and they're leaving bad reviews. Clearly, the performance of your app matters, but testing your app inside your office with your fancy Wi-Fi probably doesn't give you the complete picture, as you have users all over the world with different devices and different connection speeds. So performance monitoring automatically collects performance-related metrics without you needing to write any code. But if you did want to manually collect metrics, you can write a small amount of code using the SDK. These collected metrics give you insights into the performance of your app, broken down by region, device model, and connection speed. That's already a lot of information, but if you wanted even more information, you could integrate performance monitoring with BigQuery to find out, for example, the average app start latency breakdown by country, the cache hit rate for loading certain types of files from disk, and the time of day that users issue network requests. So again, this is data that you can get when you integrate BigQuery with performance monitoring, but not data that you can get just by looking on Firebase Console within performance monitoring. All right, so let's say you fix those performance issues, but reviews now start saying that the app is crashing a lot. Crashlytics, which is another Firebase product, can help you identify and diagnose crashes in Android and iOS apps with detailed logs to help figure out exactly why an app is crashing and help you fix them. For any individual crash, Crashlytics can supply you with a human-readable stack trace along with details about the devices that encountered the crash, and even a list of analytics events that led up to the crash, so you can better understand why the app crashed and what your user was doing up until the moment it actually crashed. When you integrate Crashlytics with BigQuery, you can find deeper information about your crashes, like crashes by day, top X crashing devices, all users facing a particular crash, the number of users impacted by a crash broken down by country, and top X issues so far today or since some date that you're curious about. So with the help of Crashlytics, hopefully you fix those crash issues, and you're wondering about other metrics. You can use Firebase Analytics, which provides free, unlimited reporting. The SDK automatically captures certain key events and user properties, and you can view these insights and reports. Perhaps most importantly, analytics is the foundation of many other products that Firebase uses to help you determine a successful business, as it can help you determine user segments to do A/B testing, send notifications through Firebase Cloud Messaging, and provide a unique experience through remote config. With the help of BigQuery, you can, for example, find the audience of purchasers, end-day active or inactive users, frequently or highly active users, and acquired users. Using analytics and BigQuery, you might think about how to engage those inactive users or acquired users, and cloud messaging could be a good way to do that. Cloud messaging is a free service that enables you to send messages between server and client apps, and messages can be sent to users on Android, iOS, and the web without you needing to add any logic to keep track of which device users are using. So cloud messaging provides some information already about sent, open, and read notifications, and you can view that in Firebase console. And when you integrate with BigQuery, you can gain additional insights as you can count the number of messages sent by an app, count unique app instances targeted by messages, count notification and data messages sent, find the percentage of delivered messages, count messages sent to a topic or a campaign, and compute latency for given message or an instance ID. So you can really do a lot when you integrate cloud messaging with BigQuery. So while cloud messaging is one way to engage your users, you can also use A/B testing to determine whether some functionality, UI, or experience is preferable to another. And you can determine whether these changes are desired based on data. You don't have to write any code or set up anything aside from a few steps on Firebase console, and you can test both product experiments like changes in your app, as well as marketing ones like notifications. So the previous talk covered A/B testing, but this is just a summary of that. And when you integrate A/B testing with BigQuery, there's actually a very convenient button in Firebase console that takes you directly to BigQuery with an example to query. Basically, you can do anything in BigQuery as you can do with analytics, but you can get event counts specifically for each variant of an experiment's population. All right, so now we've briefly talked about all the products that BigQuery integrates with and some examples of questions you can get answered by using BigQuery queries with those integrations. In general, linking Firebase products to BigQuery enables you to gain insight into data for the previous day. So that is, today's data is not going to be available today. And you'll typically have to wait until tomorrow to be able to query today's data. But what if you wanted to check data for today to get a sense of what's happening right now? For that, Analytics and Crashlytics both support streaming, which makes data for the current day available by publishing periodic updates to intraday tables throughout the day. So I'll briefly talk about these two products with respect to streaming. So for Google Analytics streaming, BigQuery has more recent information you can analyze about your users and their traffic on your property. For each day, streaming export creates one new table and is called events_intraday_the date. And this is an internal staging table that includes records of session activity that took place during the day. Streaming export is a best effort operation, and so it might omit all data for reasons such as the processing of late events or failed uploads. Data is exported continuously throughout the day, and this table can include records of a session when that session spans multiple export operations. The table is eventually deleted when the daily export is complete. It's important to note that no backfill for Google Analytics is available, meaning that until you link BigQuery with Google Analytics, there is not going to be any Google Analytics data available in BigQuery. So if you plan on using BigQuery, or even if you just suspect you might use it, it's probably worth linking it sooner rather than later, so you have data available to query. Also, as a side note, while there is no limit on streaming export, standard Google Analytics properties have a daily BigQuery export limit of 1 million events. So if your property consistently exports the export limit, the daily BigQuery export will be paused, and previous day's exports will not be processed. So to get rid of this limitation, you can upgrade to Google Analytics 360. And to help operate under that limit, you can use data filtering to determine which events do get exported. You can also include streaming for Crashlytics. In a normal circumstance, under just linking Crashlytics with BigQuery, there will be automatically a batch table created, and data gets exported once daily to it. The batch table can be provided backfilled data up to 90 days prior, and this is ideal for long-term analysis and identifying trends over time because Firebase durably stores events before actually writing them. When you enable streaming for Crashlytics, an additional real-time table is created, and the data gets exported to it in real time, but there is no backfill available. When data gets written to your real-time table, the data gets immediately written to BigQuery, and so is ideal for live dashboards and custom alerts. These two tables can actually be combined together with a stitching query to get the best benefits of both. So that's pretty much all I have in terms of content related to Firebase and BigQuery integrations. If you need a review on what was covered today, I've actually made 2 videos on Firebase's YouTube channel about integrating and streaming with Firebase, as well as analyzing Firebase data with BigQuery. And so the 2 links to those videos are on here. You can also just go directly to Firebase's YouTube channel and search for BigQuery. These 2 videos are the first 2 that will show up. We also have a Firebase blog, and I wrote a blog post not too long ago covering the same material as well. So if you would rather read than listen to a video or watch a video, there's a link to that article up here, BigQuery and Firebase integration and streaming. One of my coworkers quite a few years ago also wrote an article stepping through a concrete example of analyzing custom retention cohorts using BigQuery and Google Analytics for Firebase. And in that article, there's a link to a public set of data that he uses throughout the article that you can follow along as well in BigQuery. So that's the second link under the Firebase blog. So that's all I have. I think we might have some time if there's any questions about BigQuery and Firebase or Firebase in general. Feel free to ask, or if you don't want to ask in front of everybody, I'll probably be around for a bit afterward if you want to come talk to me about Firebase. Again, I work on the Firebase team, so hopefully if you have feedback, we would love to hear that feedback. If you have questions or want clarifications on anything that you've experienced using Firebase, it doesn't have to do with BigQuery. It can be anything that you're curious about or have questions about or have feedback on. I would love to hear it. Yeah, actually, I'll take questions if anyone has any. And if you have general Firebase questions, I'm happy to answer them right now as well. No questions? Product feedback? Firebase is perfect? All right, great. All right, if there's no questions, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope this was helpful. And if any questions do come up, please come find me. All right, thank you.